Hi, kids. It's Grandpa. And of course, that means that this is story time. It's been a while since I've done a story time video. Been a little bit busy. As many of you may know, I traveled to, Grandma and I traveled to Arizona a while back, visited JJ and visited Jeremiah. Jeremiah is JJ. I meant to say JJ and Jordy. And of course, you know whose birthday it was back then, huh? Yeah, you know. How many of you can guess? If it wasn't JJ's and if it wasn't Jeremiah's, who was it? Give you one guess. It was Josh's, yeah. So I got a chance to see old Big Josh out there. You know, he's probably the tallest person in our family. Yeah, I think so. Okay, and then of course, Grandma's had some health issues. She's been in and out of the hospital, and I've been very concerned about her. So that's taken a lot of my attention. But I want to assure you that she is doing much better now. So I've decided that we need to get back into our story of wonder. So, because you know, we always finish what we started. And we're starting to get near the end of the story anyway. And I'm really enjoying it a lot, and I hope you are. So it's been a while since we last read this book, so let me give you sort of a recap of what happened the last time. As you may know, that Jack and Augie are two best friends. I mean, they are real friends now. Ever since Jack punched Julian in the mouth, there's been this kind of a war there at school among the boys. Julian got a bunch of the guys on his side, and Jack and Augie only have a few guys on their side because, see, what happened over the summer is Julian threw a big party, invited all the kids over to his house and started talking about Jack and Augie and making up all kind of rumors about him, such as Jack was starting to have a nervous breakdown because he was being forced to be Augie's friend and all kind of stuff. So he did all of that to try to keep people from talking to Jack and sort of kind of shun him. Okay, so he's got a big group on his side. And Jack and Augie doesn't have much. They've got just a few people on their side. But there's a fairly large people that are neutral in between that aren't on either side at all. Okay. There's another character that has entered our story recently, a guy named Jason, I believe it is. Or is it Justin? Let me take a quick look. Oh, yeah. He is Via's new boyfriend. So it's Justin, yeah, Justin. He's Via's new boyfriend. He's a really nice guy. And one interesting thing about him is he plays a fiddle. You know, he's in a Zydeco band. Some of you may know Zydeco is a music style they play down in New Orleans. So he carries his fiddle in this case that looks like a machine gun. And it's kind of a novelty. Well, anyway, one day he and Jack were walking to the bus stop together. And Jack told him, hey, hold on a minute. I'm going to run across the street to the store to get some gum. So Justin was standing there at the bus stop. He saw Jack go across the street into the store. But then he also saw Julian coming up the street with a gang of his friends. And he saw that as they passed the store, they looked in there and they saw Jack. And as Jack came out, they started giving him a hard time. They followed him and they was calling after him, and they were just really giving him a bad time. Jack got away from them and came back over across the street and got on the bus. But Justin saw all of this happen. And later on, Justin caught up with those guys. Now remember, those guys don't know Justin from anyone. They've never seen Justin before. So Justin did something that I think was pretty cool. So he caught these guys coming out of an ice cream stand, and they all got ice cream cones, and they're all sitting there laughing about how they treated Jack and everything. Just then, Justin comes up there, and he's got this brim hat on, I believe, and he walks up, and he points his fiddle that's inside this machine gun looking case at him. And they're standing there, and they're kind of quivering, and knees are knocking. And he says to them, "You leave Jack alone. You hear me?" And they're frightened, and their ice cream cones are melting down their hands and everything. And then he turns and leaves. And I mean, he just leaves them in shock. I thought that was so cool. Anyway, remember Jack and Augie were working on a school project, on their school project, because they were getting ready to have their exhibition at the gym. And Augie came up with an idea of making a lamp light up out of a homemade battery that's made out of a potato. And they called it their Spud lamp, and that was going to be their exhibit at the play, at the school gym. So now we pick up our story where Augie is at the gym that night, and they with Jack, and they got their display, and all the other kids are there. And we're going to be picking up the story right now from Augie's point of view, okay? From Augie's perspective, all right? The Spud lamp was a big hit at the science fair. Jack and I got an A for it. It was the first A Jack got in any class all year long, and he was psyched. All the science fair projects were set up on a table in the gym, and it was the same setup as the museum, Egyptian museum back in December, except this time there were volcanoes and molecule dioramas on the tables instead of pyramids and pharaohs. And instead of the kids taking their parents around to look at everybody else's artifacts, we had to stand by our table while all the parents wandered around the room and came over to us one by one. Now, here's the math on that. 60 kids in the grade equals 60 pairs of parents, and doesn't even include grandparents. So that's a minimum of 120 pairs of eyes that find their way over to me. Eyes that aren't used to seeing me as their kids' eyes now see me. It's like how a compass needle always points north no matter which way you're facing. All those eyes are compasses, and I'm the North Pole to them. That's why I still don't like school events that include parents. I don't hate them as much as I did in the beginning of the school year. Like the Thanksgiving Sharing Festival, that was the worst one, I think. That was the first time I had to face the parents all at once. The Egyptian Museum came after that, but it was okay because I got to dress up as a mummy and nobody noticed me. Then came the winter concert, which I totally hated because I had to sing in the choir. Not only can I not sing at all, but I felt like I was on display. The New Year's art show wasn't quite as bad, but it was still annoying. They put up all the artwork in the hallways all over the school and had the parents come and check it out. It was like starting school all over again, having unsuspecting adults pass by me on the stairway. Anyway, it's not that I care that people react to me. Like I've said a gazillion times, I'm used to it by now. I don't let it bother me. It's like when you go outside and it's drizzling a little, you don't even put on your boots for a drizzle. You don't even open your umbrella. You walk through it and barely notice your hair getting wet. But when it's a huge gym full of parents, the drizzle becomes like a total hurricane. Everybody's eyes hit you like a wall of water. Mom and Dad hung around my table a lot, along with Jack's parents. It's kind of funny how parents actually end up forming the same little groups their kids form. Like my parents and Jack and Summer's mom all like get along with each other. And I see Julian's parents hanging out with Henry's parents and Miles' parents, and even the two Max's parents hang out together. It's so funny. I told Mom and Dad about it later when we were walking home, and they thought it was a funny observation. I guess it's true. Like seeks like, said Mom. For a while, the war was all they talked about. February, when it was really the worst. That's when practically nobody was talking to us, and Julian had started leaving notes on our lockers. The notes to Jack were stupid, like, "You stink," or "Big cheese," and "Nobody likes you anymore." I got notes like "Freak," and another that said, "Get out of here. Get out of our school, orc." Someone thought that we should report the notes to Ms. Rubin, who was the middle school dean, or even Mr. Tushman, but we thought that would be like snitching. Anyway, it's not like we didn't leave notes too, though ours weren't really mean. They were kind of funny and sarcastic. One was, "You're so pretty, Julian. I love you. Will you marry me? Love, Beulah." Another was, "Love your hair, XOXO, Beulah." Another was, "You're a babe. Tickle my feet, XO, Beulah." Beulah was a made-up person that me and Jack came up with. She had really gross habits like eating the green stuff in between her toes and sucking on her knuckles. And we figured someone like that would have a real crush on Julian, who looked like and acted like someone in a Kids Bop commercial. There were also a couple of times in February when Julian, Miles, and Henry played tricks on Jack. They didn't play tricks on me, I think, because they knew that if they got caught bullying me, it would be big time trouble for them. Jack, they figured, was an easier target, so one time they stole his gym shorts and played monkey in the middle with him in the locker room. Another time, Miles, who sat next to Jack in homeroom, swiped Jack's worksheet off his desk, crumpled it in a ball, and tossed it to Julian across the room. This wouldn't have happened if Miss Petrosa had been there, of course, but there's a substitute teacher that day, and the subs never really know what's going on. Jack was good about this stuff. He never let them see that he was upset, though I think sometimes he was. The other kids in the grade knew about the war. Except for Savannah's group, the girls were neutral at first, but by March they were getting sick of it, and so were some of the boys. Like another time when Julian was dumping some pencil sharpener shaving into Jack's backpack. Amos, who was usually tight with him, grabbed the backpack out of Julian's hand and returned it to Jack. It was starting to feel like the majority of boys weren't buying into Julian anymore. Then a few weeks ago, Julian started spreading this ridiculous rumor that Jack had hired some hitman to get him and Miles and Henry. This lie was so pathetic that people were actually laughing at him behind his back. At that point, any boy who had still been on his side now jumped ship and were clearly neutral. So by the end of March, only Miles and Henry were on Julian's side, and I think even they were getting tired of the war by then. I'm pretty sure everyone stopped playing the plague game behind my back too. No one really cringed if I bumped into them anymore, and people borrowed my pencil without acting like the pencil had cooties. People even joked with me now sometimes, like the other day I saw Maya writing a note to Ellie on a piece of Ugly Doll stationery, and I don't know why, but I just kind of randomly said, "Did you know that the guy who created Ugly Doll based them on me?" Maya looked at me with her eyes wide open, like she totally believed me. Then she realized I was only kidding, and she thought it was the funniest thing in the world. "You're so funny, August," she said, and then she told Ellie and some of the other girls that what I had just said, and they all thought it was funny too. Like at first, they were shocked, but then when they saw I was laughing about it, they knew that I was okay to laugh about it too. And the next day, I found a little ugly doll keychain sitting on my chair with a nice little note from Maya that said, for the nicest Augie doll in the world, XO Maya. Well, 6 months ago, stuff like that would never have happened, but now it happens more and more. Also, people have been really nice about the hearing aids I started wearing. Hey, look, that's enough for now, but I'm going to pick up again next time and we'll continue right on to the end. But it looks like the war is just about over, huh? And Augie's doing just fine. And people have really started accepting him for who he is on the inside. And that's the important thing, who you are on the inside. You remember that. Until next time, as I always tell you, you are strong, you are smart, and you are loved. Bye-bye.